Robin Hood Radio presents Flavor Matters with Serge Matakian. He's the owner of Saravan Restaurant in Armenia. If you can't find him in the kitchen or gardens, then follow him either on Facebook or Twitter at SaravanNY.
Thank you for tuning in, everyone. This is Serge from Saravan Restaurant and Flavor Matters. I appreciate your tuning in and listening to us. I'm continuing my conversations about Armenia and Armenians. And I am honored and excited to have Vincent Lima, whom I met through his mother, Karine, who lived in Pawling, New York, and came to Saravan many moons ago. Welcome, Vincent.
I'm happy to be here. Hello.
Hello, and thank you for deciding to join me for this conversation. Vincent, you, like you were born in Tehran. I mean, not Tehran, in Iran. You were born in southern part of Iran, right?
No, Tehran was right. I was born.
Tehran was great. Did you live in Abadan for a while?
No, that was my mom.
Okay.
But when she met my dad in Tehran and they had me, they were established in Tehran at that time.
Okay. So you lived in Tehran, and then, like many of us, you left Iran because of the unrest that happened there, and you moved to the U.S. Your mother is Armenian. Your father was American, and he was a reporter, if I remember correctly, or a journalist. And you did your education here, and then in 1992, you went to Armenia, and then from 2006 to 2010, you lived in Armenia.
That's right.
And now you live in upstate New York, and you are a trained historian and a psychometrician, which I didn't know what it is. So maybe you can explain to us. So I will let you introduce to us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and what has taken you to Rochester, New York.
Sure. A psychometrician is someone who makes sure that tests are fair and that they measure what they're meant to measure. I used to write questions for the GRE and the GMAT some time ago, but now I work on licensing and certification tests. So,
for a specific field or just in general?
We have clients in all kinds of fields, from athletics to, the field of optometrics, to privacy professionals, AI, cloud, all kinds of things. And the point is to make a judgment as to whether people who want to work in those fields have the skills and abilities to do so.
That's an interesting field to have fallen into, given the fact that you have yourself journalism behind you. You were, in fact, the editor of the Armenian Reporter, which is a weekly newspaper and has been in publication for a long time. And I'm not sure if you were responsible for its coming onto the web, on the internet, because I know that it was published on paper, but it is one of the papers that I flipped through, finding about details about Armenia. So how does a journalist, a historian, fall into psychometrics?
Journalism doesn't provide very stable employment, does it? And
sadly, right?
And I started working at ETS on test development in the 90s, and so I had some background in it, and I fell back on that, and then I continued my education in it, and that's what I've been doing now. But the Armenian Reporter that you mentioned, that was a very exciting time for me, because it was an opportunity, first of all, to move to Armenia, which is something that I had really wanted to do. And also it was an
Could
opportunity to.
you elaborate why you really wanted to do? I mean, I know you have an uncle that lives there, and it's got a beautiful B&B in Dilijan, the Swiss Alps of Armenia. I
It
know
is a
that
beautiful place.
it's a
Yes.
beautiful place, and I've visited him, and I know the place. But when you say that you really wanted to move to Armenia, can you elaborate on that?
Well, you and I grew up in Iran, and we grew up in a sort of environment where we were part of more than one culture at a time. You know, we were part of the Armenian minority. We were also part of, you know, the Iranian majority in many aspects of our work. And at least for me, having an American father, I was also part of, you know, the U.S. community and the U.S. expat community. So I felt like my children growing up in the U.S. could benefit from having a more global perspective and living outside the United States for as long as possible. And so I'd hoped to be able to move to Armenia at some point, and the Armenian Reporter gave me that opportunity to live there and to let my children grow up there for as long as was possible. And my partner was wonderful in wanting to do that too. So we were able to go and live there for a while, 4 years.
And you were in your 40s. That you were in your late 30s.
Do I need to think about that? Yeah, I was in my 40s, I think.
Yeah, we're about the same age. So you were in your late 30s.
2006, yeah, I was 42, I guess.
Yeah. And so how was it for you to be an Armenian Iranian? And for the listeners that are just joining us, I have the privilege of speaking to Vincent Lima, an Armenian Iranian like I, who has lived in Armenia, now lives in Rochester, Armenia. And this is Serge from Saravan Restaurant and Flavor Matters. One of the interesting things about us Armenians in Iran is that we were an enclave of a minority. So we maintained our religious, our cultural, our language. We went to Armenian schools. And I know that at least for my family, there were so many Armenians that lived in Tehran that almost exclusively, you know, Armenians were associating with Armenian businesses and community. And then I went to an Armenian school where we studied the Armenian language, composition, literature, religion, and history. But most other lessons were taught in Farsi. Hence, I think, at least for me, my Farsi was a lot stronger than Armenian. I don't know if that was the case for you or not. So after having lived in an Armenian community in Iran and having come to the US, and now you have the opportunity to go to Armenia, and you're a journalist, you're a historian, so you have a specific perspective that you use in seeing the world. How was that experience for you?
I'll say that and this is an insight from my partner, Martha, but I'll say that the Armenian world for my children and the Armenian world for us as children was very different, because when we were children, Armenia was a Soviet republic that was, for practical reasons, out of practical purposes, out of reach to us. And so being Armenian was a thing, but it wasn't connected in a real way. It wasn't like, let's go to the country, let's go to the homeland. And for my children, it's a place. It's a nationality. It's like, let's go to Armenia and let's be part of that community. In a way that you also, of course, have the Armenian American community, and you can be involved here, and in many ways we are. But there's a reality of the place, and that makes for their generation a different experience, and of course for me as well. And I had a privilege that very few people in Armenia had or have, which is that I had a good U.S. income when I was there. So I was very comfortable. And I absolutely loved it. I enjoyed every moment of it. I enjoyed being there. I enjoyed creating something, which in my case was this newspaper, which had existed before, but it was being, sort of reimagined.
You created a new platform for the
online platform was an exciting part of it, but also having a whole reporting staff in Armenia and sort of trying to interpret the news from Armenia in a way that would resonate with our readers across the United States, because it was an American Armenian newspaper. So the audience was people in New Jersey, but also in Glendale and also in, Springfield, Indian Orchards, Massachusetts, and so on.
So for me, when I went to Armenia, I realized that, yes, I'm an Armenian. And you raised a very interesting point. For us Armenian Iranians, Armenia sort of existed more hypothetically. Sort of there was this idea of Armenia. But when you go to Armenia and you see the land, I remember the first time I saw Masis, Mount Ararat, or when I even saw the pink stones of Yerevan, yeah, Tufan. It's just got a very different feeling. And the first time I saw Sevan, because they were all sort of imaginary for me as a child, because I'd never seen. I've seen photos, I'd seen paintings of them.
Absolutely.
So it's really fascinating that your children have had the actual physical image that they have rather than a hypothetical one. But what I find interesting is, as an Armenian Iranian, I realized that my Armenian was imbued with a lot of Persian words, a lot of French words, and then now that I've been living in the US for 40 years, so many English words, even though I speak Armenian with my family members and some friends. How was it for you to go to Armenia? And was your Armenian strong? Did you feel that, oh my God, I need to take some lessons?
It's funny. A lot of people do have that difficulty. I happen to be pretty good with language, and I'd done interpreting work before I'd moved there, and so my language skills were fine. I found it really funny with my older daughter. My younger daughter was only 1 at the time, so she didn't quite talk much to begin with. The facility with which she was able to code switch, so that she would sometimes speak English. She would speak polite or, literary Armenian with grown-ups. But if I saw her playing with kids in the neighborhood, she was speaking Russian, mixed with Russian words, sort of street slang in a way. It's like, where in the world did you learn this vocabulary, 2 months after we moved here? I certainly didn't raise you, at the age of 5. I mean, raise you, but, you're 5 years at that point with that language. But, kids pick up language really quickly and understand each other.
Very quickly.
And that was really exciting for me. I mean, she's 20 now and she translates professionally on the side, from Armenian to English. So, in addition to being in college and all that.
And
those language skills have come in handy. Say what?
Right. But I also, as a proud father, you should say that, she is the president of the Student Senate at the new
She just got elected as chair of the University Student Senate at the university that you and I both attended. You got your master's at the new school, and I did my undergrad there. My father also got his master's there.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow.
That was before he moved to Iran to start the English language newspaper.
Right. So, Vincent, you said something very interesting. The vernacular that Noor, your older daughter, picked up. And then she learned how to speak the proper Armenian, as we are taught as children to be very respectful and speak very politely, and then she picked up the vernacular of the children on the playground, because kids are like sponges, they pick it up and they understand it. But you felt that your Iranian Armenian, which is a different dialect, you were able to, it was easy for you to just convert that to the Armenian that is spoken in Armenia.
It was easy for me, as it happens. I also studied Russian in graduate school. So when people would mix in a few terms here and there, I was able to pick it up. Although I will tell you that at the time I would joke, people would say, "Oh, your daughter speaks Armenian so well." And I would say, well, she spoke it better before she moved here. It was less, fewer Russian words and fewer, sweet expressions. But yeah.
Did you study Russian in college, or did you study just out of interest?
I took Russian in grad school.
Great. Yeah, I took some Russian as well. I find it to be a beautiful language, and I hope that when I visit Armenia, I will pick up more of it. Vincent, we're coming to an end to this segment. I hope that you will stick around, because I have some other questions that I would like to ask you.
It'd be my pleasure. Thank you for talking to me.
Of course. This is Serge from Saravan Restaurant and Flavor Matters. I had the pleasure of speaking with Vincent Lima, who currently lives in Rochester, New York, but was editor of the Armenian Report from 2006 to 2010 in Yerevan, Armenia. I look forward to continuing the conversation. Thank you for tuning in.
Flavor Matters is a joint production of the Saravan Restaurant and Robin Hood Radio. For more information on the Saravan Restaurant in Armenia, New York, saravan.com on the web.